everyone, welcome back to Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. My name is Stacy. I was lucky enough this morning to score a second farmer's market calendar. I could only find one and it was stuck back in the back of the school supplies. I think somebody was hiding it to come back and get it later. I don't know. But I found it, I bought it, and now I've got two calendars to craft with. So that's awesome. So what I'm going to do is use a little bit of this calendar, and I'm going to show you this project in two different ways. So I'm just going to use my scissors and cut out, I'm just going to do the two fall ones for right now because you'll get the idea and you'll know how to do it by the time I'm done here, and it won't be a big deal. I don't want to take the time to show you how I'm going to do all 12 of the ornaments or mini pics back here. So I'm just cutting these two fall mini pictures out real fast. Okay, on top of that calendar, you're going to need either some button magnets, or you can also use one of these magnets from the Dollar Tree if you want to be super strong. And these ones are kind of cool because they already have that wood grain if you get the farmer's one, and it'll cover the picture completely, and then you'll have a heavy duty magnet to use for this. I have some pieces of wood that are left over from a Christmas ornament project I did last year, so I'm just going to use these and glue my picture on there and use the button magnets that I got at the Dollar Tree. Okay, there's 14 magnets in here for $1. That's a really good deal. There's two of them stuck together. So that's how I'm going to do mine. But if you don't have these little pieces of wood or anything to use for this, you can also use the wood plank squares, but you'll have to cut them that they sell in the Crafter Square. So I'm going to use these, but do feel free to use one of these magnets that you find just kind of clipped all over the store, hanging off the edges of the shelves, because that will work. That would actually be a quicker, easier way. But I didn't think to pick any more of those up this morning. Now, I also was lucky enough to find two of these fall wooden trucks from the Dollar Tree. Here, let me get this up a little bit higher here. And what I did is I took it out to my husband's bandsaw and I just cut this part off, and then I sanded it. And I'm also going to be pulling apart the piece that I cut off. I'm going to pull it apart so that the pumpkins are separate from the side rail of the truck. I'm going to reuse this part. This I'll save for something else because it's still a good pumpkin piece. Turn it over and it doesn't have anything showing, so this would be a cute thing to paint up and make a little stand out of for my two-tiered trays. So that's another project. So I'm showing you this project two different ways, so I needed two different trucks. If you just pick which way you like the best, and then you'll only need one truck. Okay, then I have a metal word from the Dollar Tree. You can get these right now in the fall section. I think it says Welcome, Harvest, and Blessed. I don't know that this one actually came from that setting, but you can get Welcome right now. I took it outside, spray painted it with satin black. And then I have, for the other sign, this is one of the wooden words from the Dollar Tree. It's from their bare wood section. And it just says hello. It also got painted with the same satin black. Then I have one pizza pan. I just painted the edges. Didn't worry about painting the center because it's going to be covered. Okay, and then I have one cookie sheet. I wanted to show you two different ways because some people are commenting that they're having a hard time finding the pizza pans, but they can find the cookie sheets. So we'll do it that way. Then I have a piece of paper from a paper pad that I got at Michael's over the summer, and this was just, it's like brick that's been painted white. And so what I did with that is I cut a piece big enough to go halfway down my cookie sheet, and another one using the metal or the paper label that's on your pizza pan. You can use that to measure, and I just cut half a sheet of that. Or if you didn't think to keep that, if you have one of these screens from the Dollar Tree. It's a little bit smaller than it needs to be, so you could go this, draw this line and cut it a little bit bigger. One of those splatter screens makes a really good template for cutting something to go in the middle of a pizza pan. So that's what I did. I used that, cut it a tiny, tiny bit bigger, and then cut it in half to cover half of my pizza pan. Now I was able to get both of these out of one sheet of paper, 12 by 12. Okay, then I had some paper-backed burlap. I used it in my Christmas in July. I got it at a warehouse sale. Did the same thing, just cut for half. So we're going to cover half of the pan with this brick and half of the pan with the burlap. Okay, so we're going to do that first so that it can be drying, because this will take some Mod Podge and some drying time. I'm going to be using my matte finish Mod Podge. And when you're cutting your burlap, make sure that you have a nice straight edge that you're cutting with, because the burlap edge is what is going to show. Okay, I am going ahead and getting all the way to the edge of my pan, even though my paper will not go all the way to the edge. I'm still going to coat the whole thing. I get a lot of questions on this tool. Let me get this down so I don't mess it up. So this tool is called a brayer. It is originally a wallpapering tool. So I got this at Michael's in the Martha Stewart collection because you use it for stencils a lot, you use it for Mod Podging. It just helps roll out any wrinkles that you might have forming, and I don't Mod Podge without it anymore because it just makes life so much easier for getting paper and whatnot down smoothly without wrinkles. Now thin paper, it will wrinkle, it's just the way it is. I've heard people say that you can put spray it with water and let it dry. I've never had good luck with that method. Doesn't mean it doesn't work, just means it doesn't work for me. So one of these times I will give that a try on camera, just not today. I got stuff to do. I'm just worried it won't work and we will have wasted time. And I've got so many craft ideas in my head right now, I don't want to waste any time. Alright, so this is my paper-backed burlap. I'm also going to roll it down. What you saw me do was put just a little bit of Mod Podge onto the piece of paper. Ooh, I just scratched up my paint. Be careful of these little prongs on the end. Don't do what I just did and scratch your paint. Okay, so I put a little bit of Mod Podge on top of my paper where they were going to overlap so that I would be sure that it would stick down really well. Okay, I'll have to touch this up and that's not a big deal. Alright. Now I need to Mod Podge over the top of this. I don't think I'm going to worry about Mod Podging over the top of the burlap because I'm afraid that the burlap will soak in so much Mod Podge that it'll start looking cloudy and crusty on top of the burlap, and I don't want that. I'm okay with getting some Mod Podge onto the pan because I am going to take it out and spritz it with a clear coat when I'm all done. I just like to clear coat my Mod Podge projects, that's hard to say, just to keep them from sticking if ever you're storing them away and they get stuck or pressed up against something. If you have a clear coat on top, it'll be just safer. Okay, so now this needs to go ahead and dry. I don't know if you can see that or not. See that kind of marbling on there? That's like a distressed washed look on the paper, and it's kind of a green color. That was the color palette of that particular pad of paper. Okay, I'm going to set that pan back there to dry, and I'm going to work on this one. Whoa, that was way too much Mod Podge, and there's a big old sticky gloppy gloopy in there. Okay. Way too much Mod Podge because I had a clog break loose there. Let me scoop some of this up. Wow. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and Mod Podge onto the whole pan. And there's another sticky clog. My Mod Podge is getting down to the bottom and it's getting some dried up bits in it. All right. Okay. I'm going to stick down my paper first. My Mod Podge is a little bit thick. Everything's wanting to slide. That's what happens when you dump too much in your pan. Oh, blooper reel. I'm going to go ahead and take some of this Mod Podge off and just kind of wipe it on the back of my burlap. I'm using the same papers for both of these versions of the project. I just want you to see what they will look like. I'm going to go ahead and put my Mod Podge on top of my scrapbook paper here before I put my burlap down this time, just to see if I like that idea better. I can scoop up some of this extra Mod Podge off my pan and put it on top here. Okay. I'm just brushing off all of my strokes going in the same direction because I think that gives you a nicer look once you're done. And then because this is a directional paper, I'm going to, it's got like a line on it, I'm going to go ahead and brush my strokes in the way of that so that it kind of just flows a little better. Alright, don't worry about little sticky marks you might have on the side of your pan because those will get covered up when you clear coat it. Alright, down goes my burlap. And I got it on crooked. I want to make sure I'm lining it up with my the line on my paper, the brick line. And I want to make sure that this edge gets pushed down really well. Okay, once again, don't scratch your paint like I keep doing. Alright, set this aside and let it dry. Alright, while we're Mod Podging, I am going to go ahead and get these magnet pieces going. I'm just going to apply Mod Podge to the entire piece of wood. And then I'm going to place my calendar picture down on the piece of wood. Roll it to make sure that it sticks. Make sure that it's straight. Roll it again. And then I'm going to put a coat of Mod Podge over the top. Okay. And then this needs to go to the side to dry. I'm going to go ahead and do this other fall one, which is the Autumn Harvest with the red truck. Go ahead and stick this down. Get it centered. And then roll it to make sure it's stuck down good. And anyway, I'm not sure if I told you, that brayer I got, it was part of the Martha Stewart collection. I got it at Michael's. But if you don't have a Michael's, I'm sure you can find one at Hobby Lobby. You could probably also find one at Walmart. And if you can't find it in the crafting section, go to the wallpaper section, the hardware section, where they have wallpaper paste and sponges and all those tools that you need for installing wallpaper. Last time I checked, Walmart did still have that. And if you can't get it there, go to Home Depot. So sorry my camera went out of focus there for a minute. So what I've done is I've just taken my wood pieces and I've decoupaged my 2 fall pictures from the calendar onto those little wood pieces using my brayer tool to flatten them out. And I was trying to tell you before my camera went crazy, you can get this tool at Michael's. It's part of the Martha Stewart collection if you want the exact one that I have. If not, you can get one probably at any craft store, I would assume, in with the stenciling stuff, or at the hardware store in with the wallpapering supplies. If you can't find one in the craft section at Walmart, check where they have the wallpaper paste and whatnot in the hardware section. I think I've seen them there. So that will give you somewhere to get it. This one, I think they are normally, this Martha Stewart one, I think is regularly in the ballpark of $12-ish. I'm not sure, but I used a coupon, so I got it for $5 or $6. So it's not that bad, but it's been a great investment for me because I do a lot of Mod Podging, and this is a lifesaver of a tool for me for that. So see if you can find one of those if you like to Mod Podge. Alright, so I'm going to set these 2 little wood pieces aside to dry, and we will turn them into magnets in a little bit after the Mod Podge has time to do its thing. Alright, the next step in this process is going to be to paint the trucks. I'm going to start with red so I can get down in there, and then I can do the black a little easier, I think. My favorite color to use for red farm trucks is the Waverly chalk paint in the color Lacquer. You can also use crimson. It's just a little bit brighter. This is a little richer red, and you can really get that nice farmhouse red with this one. Once you go and distress it a little bit, this lacquer distresses really well. So what I'm doing is just being a slob about it and getting the red paint even down in the wheels because I want the fender area, this edge, to be painted. So I'm just getting it in there. I'll be more careful when I paint the black on for the tires. If you don't want your farm truck to be red, you don't have to paint it red. You can do the blue or the white, you know, whatever. Whichever one color goes with your decor. And this will be a year-round sign, so think of your year-round decor. Don't focus on what colors do I do for Christmas or what colors do I do for fall. Because when this is all said and done, it's going to be kind of a perpetual thing where you can switch things out. First one I painted is pretty dry, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the black for the wheels. And for the wheels, I'm going to be using a rather small brush. So as you see, if you look at the wood, the black doesn't go all the way up to the fender. Follow the shape of your cut out there. With that, I'm also going to paint the edge of the tire black. These just need to dry before we can go on to the next step. So my little magnet things have dried, and I need to go ahead and get the magnets on the back so that they can be drying. So I'm going to open my package. I'm going to take out 2 magnets. And for this, I use E6000. Some people say hot glue works fine. I don't agree with that. Hot glue will not make a permanent bond on anything glass or metal. And magnets are kind of a metally kind of thing. So if you want to do hot glue, you go right ahead, but don't be surprised if it comes apart on you in a few weeks. E6000 is a permanent bond that will expand and contract with whatever you're putting it on as your climate changes, the heat, the temperature, the moisture, and the air. Especially if you're going on to something natural like wood, E6000 is your best bet for metal to wood if you're going to have it to where it can be in the elements at all. I don't intend to put this outside. You could put this on your door once it's all said and done if you seal it up really well, and in which case you would definitely want E6000, because hot glue, if your door or wreath or wherever you're hanging this gets a lot of sun, then sometimes the hot glue will melt again and your piece will fall apart. So I've heard some people saying that. I have never been one to really use hot glue for things that go outside, because hot glue does not expand and contract with temperature. Alright, so my trucks are mostly dry. The wheels are still a little damp, so I'm going to be careful not to mess them up. And I'm going to get out my antiquing wax, or it's Waverly antique wax, not antiquing wax, it's just antique wax. This is that. It's a very messy bottle. And I'm going to get out kind of a little dry, scruffy brush. All of my stenciling brushes right now are in the drying rack. So I want a very dry brush, so I'm going to use this one. This is just one of those cheap natural bristle brushes. So that's what I'm doing. Anyway, if you look at the picture on here, this will give you some ideas of where your rust marks should be if you need to know. I'm going to put little rust marks along the edge of my fenders, just because that's a place where a farmer would back into a fence or scratch it up somehow, and there would be naturally forming rust there. It's also a place where water can collect. So just think about where you might normally see rust on an old truck. You don't have to put a lot on there. A little bit will do. Around the handle. And then this cutout for the door, I'm going to go ahead and hit that too. And then I'm just going to I'm just going to kind of outline the edges with this just a little bit. It'll make it pop. It'll make it pop up off of the board a little more. Okay, so get your rusty spots on both trucks. If you're just doing one, then you don't have to do like I'm doing and do two of them. I just wanted to give you options with this sign, show you what it would look like in two different ways, so that if you can't get the supplies, sometimes Dollar Trees are not the same, and what's easy for one person to get is difficult for another. If you cannot find the farmer's market calendar, you could get a free printable off of the internet, something that is the season that you want to put in here. You could use calendars from somewhere else other than the Dollar Tree as well. You could use stickers. Kind of design something with some stickers. That would totally work. Okay, so now I'm going to put some good antique wax onto my brush, and I'm going to put a line down here. I'm just freehanding this. It's just a straight line pretty much. Okay, so everything has dried on my truck, so now I'm going to take some Waverly chalk paint in white, and I'm just going to brush it over this middle medallion. Oops. Just using a small brush. brushing it on. I'm going to grab this pizza pan because I went to set it to dry and it slipped, and when I grabbed it my thumb stuck to it, and yeah, so I just want to kind of cover up the red paint that transferred from my finger. Hopefully the truck will cover most of this. If not, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but anyway, that just helps cover up the red, makes it not so obviously messed up. I just realized I forgot to cover the hole, to fill the hole in the truck that came from the hanger. So I'm going to use this lightweight spackling that I got at Dollar Tree. I'm just going to take a little on my finger. I'm going to go from the back side. Yeah. Push it in. Come around to the front. Smooth it out. Accidentally got a little in the window. Don't do that. The reason I go from the back side is you'll have less smearing on the front side where you want it to be clean. Smush it in. Make sure you clean up any that's on the window if you get it on there. It's hard not to. Okay. Alright, just going to let that dry, and then I'll just touch it up with that little dot of red paint, and it'll be good to go. Probably take about half an hour or so to dry. Alright, the next thing I want to do is get this pumpkin off of my, what do you call them, sideboards. And what I'm going to do, is push very gently, and it just came up. So I've got a flat screwdriver. I'm just going to run underneath where it's still stuck because I don't want it to break. Okay, I can save this pumpkin and do something fun with that later. So there's a little bit of wood that peeled from the pumpkin. I just need to clean that off. And then I'm going to take my antique wax and I'm going to water it down. A paint palette, and I've got a little bit of water in there. I'm not going to need a lot for this, so I'm going to get some antique wax out. This is Waverly antique wax. You can use truffle brown as well. Anything brown, even if you just have acrylic paint, burnt umber would be great. Just need a tiny bit of paint into a whole bunch of water, and then you're going to get a stain look. So here's where there's like a drop of paint into that whole thing of water. And then you can use a paper towel. I like these small half sheet size ones. You can use a paper towel and just wipe it off. And here's what it looks like with the paint being, let me get that out of the way, paint being a little darker. You decide which look you want, and also choose according to whatever color truck you painted. If you didn't do a red truck, you did a blue truck, maybe you want a lighter color. I don't know. I really like how this one turns out. So I'm going to go ahead and repaint this one that I just did with the really watery one. I just wanted to show you that it is possible to get different shades from the same color paint just by using different amounts. Okay. Make sure you get the edges. Set those aside to dry. Brush into my rinse water. I just keep a jar on my desk when I'm doing a lot of Mod Podging and painting. I put a little bit of warm soapy water in it when I start out my day, and I just stick my brushes in there. And then they soak in that warm soapy water, and I clean them up when I'm all done for the day. Just a little tip of what I do. So I have these little pieces of wood. They were supposed to say smile on them. I got them as a freebie and something, I don't know. So I just cut the camera piece off so I could have this little scrap of wood. You're not going to see this scrap of wood, so the fact that it has a word in it is not a big deal. Okay, like this one, I didn't get all the way cut out. Anyway, I am thinking I need to build a little, like a box to make the bed of the truck. And it doesn't have to be big. In fact, I don't really want it to be big. And I'm trying to decide if I want it to be really thin. I want to be able to put these in it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my glue gun, and I'm going to put some glue on one of these Jenga blocks, and I'm going to glue it on to the side of this piece of wood. Now, I don't need this to be a solid box on the bottom because I want a bottom on it, but if it's not 100% solid, I'm okay with that. And the reason being that nothing tiny is going to go in it. So those little gaps right there will be fine. It's just there to kind of keep things from falling all the way through the truck. Okay. And when I cut this, I cut it with this in mind. So I'm going to center it on the back of the truck and just have it down inside of there, so that if I want to put something in there like a flower or something, that it's got something to hold it in there. Okay, and so I'm thinking I might want to paint this box red. So I'm going to go ahead and finish gluing. I'm going to put glue. I could just glue it directly to the truck, but I am going to make a box and glue the box to the truck. Because I think in the long run, I think this will be more secure, and I have plenty of this wood, so I'm going to go with it. Never throw away little scraps of wood like this, because you never know when you're going to need a little piece of wood just for something that you really can't even see, but you just need it in there for support, or in this case to make a box. I just have this little box. You could do this with cardboard, you could do it with anything. This is just what I have on hand and what I'm going to use. Alright, I need to put a little bit of paint on these just to make them look a little nicer once they're on the finished product. So I'm using the red lacquer just like I used on the truck. And I'm going to paint the bottom as well, just because I think you might be able to see that at some point if you're sitting below this sign or whatever. I'm not even worrying about making it perfect and neat and tidy. I'm just getting some paint on there. Alright, another thing I want to do, when this is on the sign, I don't want to be seeing through the handle or this little line. So I'm going to put a piece of black paper to cover that. So it's going to go around. And make sure that the paper covers all of the hole. And we are good. Okay, then when I turn it over, I see that instead. And I think that just looks nicer. Especially once I have it sticking out and there's different things behind it. Oh, and I touched up the little hole that I filled with the spackle. Now what I need to do is put this on to the back of my truck. I'm going to use lots of hot glue for that. And I'm going to center it as best I can. Get it straightish. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. I've got this boosted up, so I'm going to also need to boost up the front, which just occurred to me. So I'm going to need to paint a couple of more. blocks. And I'm going to have to put little shims on them because otherwise it won't be the same width. So I'm going to go ahead and finish clipping out this little camera. Okay, so what I need to do is shim each side of my Jenga block so that it's the same thickness as this one is. And I'm just going to put some hot glue on my Jenga block. And I think one will be enough. It's not perfect on there, and that's okay. I do think one will be enough. I can put that like that up here at the front. So I need one more Jenga block. Now I need to hit that with some paint. Again, I wish I had thought of that before I threw my brush into my rinse water. This is kind of a learn as you go tonight. Alright, so I'm going to paint the Jenga block. Throwing that brushing away again. Hopefully it'll be the last time. I'm going to hit these with the heat gun to dry them quickly. Alright, now I'm just going to glue one of these props up here to the front of the truck just to give it some support. And I'm going to do the same on this truck. Alright, now for the fun part. We get to put the sign together. So I have this, and I'm going to put the truck here. And the whole thing I'm doing with the magnets is so that you can put them like crates into the back of this pan. Okay, and you can change them out for the seasons. Okay, that's the thought behind this. Now I've got, you can stack them up like that. Okay, so you could also, I'm just going to grab this, if you had some little wooden pumpkins, they could just drop down into that little box we created. And then we're going to put a welcome sign on the bottom. But what I need to do is trim this out somehow, and I'm thinking that jute rope might be the best, or nautical rope, I mean not jute rope. Nautical rope will be the best to do that. So let me go grab that. Alright, the reason I'm choosing nautical rope is because I have the burlap on here and I think it just goes well. Another thing you could do is white rope. I do have some white nautical rope around here somewhere, but I'm just thinking that I like the jute rope on the burlap. Another thing that you could use is this clothesline rope that I got at Walmart, and you could braid some pieces together. But I don't want to do that. I like the look of the brown, so that's what I'm going to go with. Okay, a lot of people say that the brown is just overused, and they tend to not like it, but I'm going to go with it. Now, I'm going to put my truck here for a second. Okay, I'm going to start and stop my rope behind where the truck is going to be, covering it a little bit. That way, I don't have to feel like I need to put a bow on it where it comes together or something like that. This just doesn't strike me as a project for a bow. I'm going to make sure that my rope is cut at a 45-degree angle and that I get all of the strands into the glue. Okay. This is where I'm going to be using my silicone fingers from the Dollar Tree. Pushing that in. Alright, so I'm not gluing to the pan, I'm gluing to the burlap. So that's why it's okay to use hot glue here. If I was gluing this straight just to the metal, I would be using a combination of E6000 and hot glue, because you cannot get a permanent bond onto metal with anything using just hot glue. Okay, metal and glass, they will eventually come apart. My first two-tiered tray that I made, I used hot glue. That was a bad idea. All my decorations came crashing to the floor when the top tray broke off, and then it broke the rest of it on the way down. So if you want permanent on metal or glass, E6000. But since I'm gluing to the burlap, which is secured with Mod Podge, we're okay. And here I'm gluing onto the paper and onto Mod Podge that's been coated onto the pan. My little boo-boo is getting covered up a little bit by the glue, by the rope, and I'm happy for that. Okay, now I'm going to take the time to pull this where it's going to need to go, and I'm going to cut the 45-degree angle. I like to cut along the twist of the rope, because if you see the twist, it's at a 45-degree angle. And so if you cut along there, you should be good. So I'm going to put a little glue in there and come back with it. And then try to line up, twist it just enough to line up and make sure that all of those open loose strands get into the glue. Now see, because I took the time to cut that at a 45-degree angle and to match them together, it's just looks a lot nicer and a lot less frayed. Okay, I'm going to do the same with the other pan. I just love the burlap and the rope for farmhouse things. If you have another trim you want to use, great, use it. I have also seen, and I have not found it at my Dollar Tree, but I've seen some Dollar Tree hauls where people have gotten a card with like 4 different kinds of burlap trim on them, like braided, jute, and all sorts of that. If you're lucky enough to have that, I would be using that. That would be fabulous, but I don't have any of that, so I'm going with this. Here, because I have a corner, I'm going to start and stop in the corner. I'm still cutting it at a 45. Just going to angle my 45 the other direction. All right. Gluing to the burlap. Sure, with this 45-degree angle here, I'm sorry, my hands are in the way. I'm going to pump some glue in there and then make sure that all of the strands get into the glue so they don't come off. Next up, forgot to attach the sideboards. Alright, so the sideboard pieces, let me put this pan to the side for a minute. The sideboard pieces need to attach. I'm going to glue it down right on top of that little brown strip that I painted back there so that it shows and it just looks nice. Okay, so all along here and stick that down. Guess I didn't need to paint that brown strip on there after all, because the sideboards are going on there. I just love a little farm truck with the sideboards. When people don't put sideboards on the farm trucks, they don't look right to me. That's the farm girl, the Oregon farm girl. How cute is that? Alrighty, now for my crazy pan, I'm going to attach this so that when you're holding it up, I don't want to see the burlap below or above the fender. So it's going to go kind of up in the middle, and I need to make sure that my welcome sign will fit on the bottom. Okay, so I think I'm going to glue down my welcome sign first, and to do that I want to use some super glue. I have the super glue gel from the Dollar Tree. This one's been open, so I'm not 100% sure if it's going to come out, but I have another one if I need to. I like the gel because it stays put. It'll kind of make a dollop. Okay, this one's dried up. Super glue dries up. That's why I like to get the little 3-pack with the little small tubes in it, because I'll never finish a big tube. Okay, so I'm just going to twist that in, and that cracks the seal on the tube, and then carefully take off the lid. Be careful. When a fresh tube is really runny, if you've never used super glue before, be careful. Now see, this is gel, so it's coming out all nice and jelly-like. I'm going to leave a couple of little spots for a couple of dots of hot glue that will help hold it in place while the super glue dries. It's going to take about 10 to 15 minutes for the super glue to be secure. So I'm going to put a little dot of hot glue there just to hold it in place, and a little bit of hot glue there. Okay, this is how I do E6000 too. If I mix hot glue and E6000, the hot glue is just there for the sake of holding it in place. All right, pushing it down. I'm going to use my silicone fingers. That way, if any oozes out, it goes on there and not on my hands, where it will stay for days. Okay, so I got my welcome sign on. And I will clean up all of these little strips of glue and strings and stuff at the end. I feel like that's not sticking down very good. Alright, now my truck is going to go up above that, but I also want to make sure that my little magnets have room. So I can put the truck down a little bit, and if it overlaps the welcome, it's okay because it's popped up so much. So I'm going to level out about the tops of the bumper with the top of my burlap. Okay, and that will give that little shadow of the truck onto the welcome. So what I'm going to do is lots and lots of hot glue. And then I'm going to stick it down. I'm going to drop it. Alright, I'm going to push down and hold in place, because that's a lot of hot glue and it needs time to dry. Now see, if I hadn't put that little black piece of paper, you'd be seeing burlap and white and all sorts of things through there. And if you look up at the top, having those bricks being painted red actually is a nice touch, especially if you're looking from the end and from the other end. Okay, it's just nice to see that being painted red. Alright, this one is pretty much done. I'll set it aside. I'm going to grab the round one. And then, where's my hello? My hello went goodbye. There it is. Alright. There's my hello. I don't have to use super glue on this one because this one is wood. So I need to figure out where I want my truck and where I can put my little magnets in. I think that looks cute. Okay, so here I'm going to do just above the line of burlap to glue down my truck, and then hello will be down here as far down as I can get it. So let's do the hello first, and I'm going to have to move fast on this to get this on before the hot glue sets up. Okay, so I'm going to push it down into the rope, kind of twist it up. Okay, so that's going to go there, and then I'm going to add my truck. Lots and lots of hot glue. And get that up there. Push it down. Okay, there's that one with cute little pumpkins in the back, or I could put these cute little pumpkins in the back if I wanted. I could paint them orange. I think this is going to be fun, especially with it being magnetic, because then you can make all sorts of magnets. You can do all of those little mini pics from the backs of the calendars to make that. You can also make fridge magnets with the backs of the calendars. Okay, I think that is just so cute. Alright, now we got to do a hanger on the back, and I don't really care if this gets seen. So when I do hangers on the back, where did my pencil go? I like to mark where the center is. So this is my center, so I'm going to mark it on the back because I want to know where the center of the hanger needs to be. Okay, and I'm going to put at equal spots I think I'll go right here. And I just like to eyeball it and kind of put it down. And then I'm going to use a mixture of E6000 and hot glue to fasten this down. Okay, so a big glob of E6000 right here. Don't be stingy with this because it needs it. And then I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue. I don't want these two glues to mix. If the glues mix, that's when we have troubles. Okay, I'm going to push that in and then hot glue over the top. I do have better luck with doing hot glue first and then pumping E6000 in. I don't know. Once the hot glue's dry, it doesn't matter if they mix. And then I'm just going to make sure that that rope is completely entwined or caged in there. And then a little bit higher, maybe. There we go. Alright. I'm going to put down some hot glue, top and bottom. And then a little more E6000 going over the top of the rope. Okay, it's not a beautiful hanger to, you know, make shows, but now this is going to be evenly spaced. So this will need to dry for a little bit. How cute is that? Pumpkin patch, autumn harvest. So cute. Okay. I would hang this right inside my door. I am going to touch this up with black paint after the glue on the back dries, and then everything will get sprayed with clear coat, and then I'll come back and show you all the pretties. All right, there you have it. My little red truck sign from the Dollar Tree. I used the Farmer's Market mini pics on the back of the calendar to make the little crates in the back. Let me know what you're thinking about this project in the comment section below. And if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. Those things help my channel to grow, and it helps me to know what you want to see on my channel. Let me know if you might be thinking about trying to make one of these for yourself. My favorite one of these is the round one with the hello. I just like round signs for some reason. That's just me. All right, this has been Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.